Since Valentine's Day is coming up, I thought it would be fun to talk about one of the very well-known book and movie couple, which is Bella Swan and Edward Cullen from Twilight. More specifically, I'm going to touch base on how their relationship is extremely unhealthy and terrible examples for young and impressionable teenagers to be idolizing. I do want to give everyone a quick spoiler alert warning in the case that you have not seen or read any of the Twilight series. So, I was actually introduced to the Twilight wave by being dragged to the movie theaters by my oldest sister. Before that, I had never heard of it. It was one of the most uncomfortable movies I had ever sat through. I'm not an expert or a critic on acting performances, but there were many cringe-worthy moments in that movie that literally made me want to gag. After I shared my opinion with my sister, she kept pushing me to read the books, telling me that the books were much more interesting and that I would have a new opinion. So since I am an avid book reader, I gave it a chance, and I was well aware that a lot of movies usually don't do justice for books. And I'm not gonna lie, I did enjoy the books enough to want to finish all 4. I think that because the movie was such a disappointment to me, that the book was at least a minor improvement, and it was enough for me to ignore even the book's own cringe-worthy moments. So the first unhealthy relationship example that I want to talk about is Bella's unhealthy obsession with Edward. I understand that Bella's character was trying to embody the typical teenage hormones, so being boy crazy isn't anything shocking for a teenage girl. But her obsession was just on another level. She had what psychology would label as an anxious attachment style with Edward. People normally have one of 3 attachment styles and can have a combination of a couple or all 3 to a certain degree, but everyone usually tends to have one dominant attachment style. And those 3 attachment styles are the secure attachment, the avoidant attachment, and Bella's anxious attachment style. The secure attachment is typically the healthy and well-rounded attachment style where a person has a healthy self-esteem and can have trusting relationships with others. Someone with the avoidant attachment style has issues with intimacy. They invest very little toward relationships, and they do not tend to open up easily with sharing their thoughts or feelings with other people. Bella's attachment style falls under the anxious attachment style, where she is constantly worried that Edward doesn't love her and becomes extremely distraught when the relationship ends. The second example that Twilight shows us of unhealthy relationship is the isolation that you see in these movies and books. Bella makes the unhealthy choice where she basically isolated herself from her family and friends. Bella was already a bit of a loner before she met Edward. Once they started dating though, her isolation only grew as Edward and his family are prime examples of being isolated. They were not truly a part of the community since they aren't human and do not want to blow their cover of who they really are. Yet, they weren't truly a part of the vampire community either, because of their choice in lifestyle with being vegetarians. Bella had to become part of that isolated environment to keep Edward and his family secret from being discovered, and we all know that isolation is the breeding ground for abusers to work their game. The third example of unhealthy relationships in Twilight movie is the stalking. Since when does having your crush stalk you become romantic? I must have missed that love lesson in my own life. Not only did Edward stalk Bella, but he also trespassed onto her property and went into her room to watch her sleep for months before they actually started dating. So is it just me, or was Bella's reaction to Edward admitting this was very non-climactic? I don't know what they were trying to portray, but was Bella supposed to be flattered that this gorgeous vampire was so intrigued by her that he used his special abilities to stalk and harass her? The fourth unhealthy behavior that the Twilight movie shows us is Edward's controlling behavior. We witness this behavior throughout the entire series. He pushes what he feels is best on Bella without allowing her to have her own voice. He keeps her away from Jacob because he believes that Jacob is a werewolf and that he's dangerous for her to be around, even though he's a vampire himself. So the hypocrisy is quite ironic. He pressures her to go to prom even when she hates dancing because he himself regrets not having that experience for himself. In the later books and movies, he also pushes for marriage when she loathes the idea of marriage as a teenager, and he also pushes her to have an abortion because going through with the pregnancy would risk him losing her due to its dangers. The last and final unhealthy relationship example in the Twilight movies is the codependency that you can witness. Bella doesn't seem to have much of an identity outside of Edward. Her life and her sense of self became immersed with him once they were an item. She casted her family and friends to the side and even continued to do that when Edward left her in the second movie. Her only glimpse of relief came in the form of attaching herself onto another relationship with Jacob, which is unhealthy as well on its own in different ways. Bella had friends and family that wanted to help her grieve her relationship, yet she chose to soothe her pain with Jacob instead. She initially used him to help her rebuild 2 motorcycles so she can get her adrenaline rush where she has hallucinations of Edward. She knows he has feelings for her, and even though she knows that she cannot reciprocate those feelings, she doesn't want Jacob to stop pursuing her. Alright guys, so that wraps up the 5 areas of unhealthy relationship examples that I wanted to touch base on. But before anyone gets on my case for my negative judgments on this popular series, I will admit that I am guilty of some of the areas mentioned here in this video. I've had my own fair share of lustful crushes, even though they were mostly from my younger teenage years. I'm also known to be a loner, and I isolate myself when I feel the world is just a little bit too overwhelming. And I'm also a recovering people pleaser, currently working on my own codependent ways. We are all a work in progress, and this video is by no means a way for me to bash anyone. We are perfect within our own imperfections, and all that we can do is recognize areas that we can improve and keep moving forward. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, please give it a like, subscribe, and I'll see all of you beautiful souls in the next video.